Okay, great. So I'm Kate Driver, Director of School Counseling at AMSA, and we are here for our spring 2024 spring 2024 college panel. Thank you all. Just a couple of quick announcements as we get started. We are part of a new Department of Elementary and Secondary Education partnership with the College Guidance Network. So you will all be getting a message from us hopefully sometime next week with some information about how you can sign up if you'd like. CGN has a wealth of information, lots of videos. You can create your own personalized pathway for your family to look at what's coming up next. Many of you have juniors, but I know there are also some folks here who have younger students, and so you can play around with that for a couple of years, hopefully, before your kids are applying. But it's a wonderful resource, and we're so happy to be part of a DESE pilot for the state of Massachusetts. You'll see that coming from us. I also wanted to highlight Care Solace, which is a partnership that we have. If you are looking for mental health referrals, Care Solace can be a really helpful tool. And so I'm going to put that information in the chat if you'd like to check out either of those. Right. Our counselors are here tonight. So we have Chris Dugan. He works with students' last names A through E. Lindsay Corallo, last names F through L. Wiley Culhane and I share a caseload, last names M through PI, and Sarah Morrissey, last names PL through Z. And you will get to meet them all throughout the evening. They will be asking some questions. We have plenty of time for your questions as well. And so I would like to introduce our reps for the evening. So from right up the street at UMass Lowell, we have Doug C. joining us. Hi. We have Kate Bello from WPI, also down the road. We have Elise Snyder joining us from Boston University. And then all the way from California, earlier and hopefully not as wet and snowy today, we have Tira Briggs from Harvey Mudd College in Claremont, California. So thank you so much for joining us. I think you're the farthest afield college rep we've ever had at this event, so thank you. A big thanks to Sarah Morrissey for coordinating our panel tonight. She does a great job of reaching out and putting together a really diverse panel of representatives to share their expertise with us. So thank you so much, Sarah. And would you like to kick us off?
Yes. So I think in order to start off, we'll have each of our panelists give a brief overview of their institutions. So we can just hear a little bit about them. And then we will, once they're finished, I'll start with my first question. So Doug, do you want to start us off?
Sure. You did great. Perfect. So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. This is a lot of fun. Really appreciate it. My name is Doug. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions at UMass Lowell. I'm also a graduate of the school. Graduated a million years ago, but it's a place that's been so good to me both personally and professionally. We're right up 495, not too far away. We're a mid-sized public university, around 10,500 undergraduate students. We are research-based, just about to be named an R1 Research University, which we're very proud of. Traditionally people know us for our sciences and engineering. That's usually how people know UMass Lowell, so it naturally is a good fit for you folks as an option. But we are totally comprehensive. We go everything from business to fine arts, humanities, social sciences, music, music and art and education and business. So we have everything across the board, all accredited at the highest levels. UMass Lowell as an institution is a place that is really kind of singularly focused on student outcomes. That's really what we're all about and have been since we started back in the late 1800s. So it's a place that, students don't choose UMass Lowell because they're looking for 200 years of tradition. That's not who we are. We're a place that people really want to accelerate their careers. Of course, you get all of the things you want out of a college, meeting new people, new experiences, growing as a human, but it's a place that students choose as a really sort of pragmatic choice to get a great degree at a low cost that really accelerates your opportunities when you graduate. We have Division I varsity sports, 14 D1 sports. We are also have about 35 club sports too, so really active sports scene on campus, 300 clubs and organizations on campus. And it's a place that it's really just a hardworking blue collar student body. That's who they are, and they really take advantage of their opportunities. So that's a little bit about UMass Lowell in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions about us specifically, but the public system in Massachusetts, I've been doing this for a while. Happy to try to answer any questions about the public system too, if you have any around those. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. Kate, would you like to go next?
Sure, happy to do that. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope you all enjoyed this snowy day that we had. We are indeed just down the road, and I wear a couple hats in the admissions office. I'm the director of admissions for campus visits and events. So in addition to being a counselor, I also manage all of our campus visitation programs. So we are down the road. I'll make a plug that we'd love to have you come visit our campus when you can. But to tell you a little bit about WPR, we are a medium-sized school located in Worcester. And Worcester, if you didn't know it, is home to 34,000 college students. So it's a great college town, lots to do. The city really caters to the college student population. We're a medium-sized school of about 5,000 undergrads, and a little bit of a similar theme to some of the things that Doug mentioned. But in terms of at least one area of study or major, our students do like to focus on something within science, technology, engineering, math, and business. But our humanities department is actually our largest department on campus. So students who come to WPI are really excited about STEM and business, but they also want to continue in the areas within the humanities that they really enjoy. So they're very creative in terms of major. We have a very flexible curriculum. So students, when they're applying to WPI, are applying to just WPI. We don't make decisions based on major. So it does allow our students to have some flexibility along the way. What makes us distinctive than other schools that students are looking at often, in addition to WPI, is that our motto is theory and practice. So we have a project-based curriculum. Projects are built into just about every class that a student takes at WPI, but there are some projects that you will complete for credit with project sponsors that are usually outside companies, government agencies, nonprofits, and you'll do that in your junior and senior year. So if you enjoy collaboration, teamwork, we might be a really nice fit for you in that regard. We are also a residential college. So we have students who come and they live on campus, and they're involved in over 235 different clubs that we have on campus. We are NCAA Division III. So we have 10 men's and 10 women's varsity sports. We have theater, we have music, we have service clubs. There really is a little something for everyone. And then let's see, in terms of our application process on the Common Application, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through the Q&A part of this, but I'm really excited to be here tonight and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. And we'll go over to Elise, please.
Good thing. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Elise Snyder. I'm Senior Assistant Director on the Board of Admissions with Boston University. I'm also a very proud BU alum myself as well for undergrad and my master's degree too. So when it comes to Boston University, a large urban institution located within Boston, Massachusetts, I think all of us will say this, but if you haven't had a chance to come visit yet, really highly recommend it. We have a very unique campus culture that I love to highlight with students. We are located in Boston, but just outside of downtown. So while we're an urban school, you're not pushing past businessmen and women as they try to get to and from their jobs, or having tourists stop to ask you for directions, unless there is a Red Sox game going on. Opening night is next week. You might get asked once or twice for parking options as a student when there is a Red Sox game. But BU itself, we have over 300 programs of study within 10 schools and colleges, everything from business to engineering, fine arts, education, communication, hospitality administration. We also have a relatively new data science program that I'm really pushing for students who might be interested in real world application of computer science. It's a really great option available. 10 schools and colleges, but really what we're known for is academic flexibility. So moving between schools and colleges, changing your major. About 80% of students will pursue multiple programs, major and a minor in related subjects or not. And then BU to really stand strong with research. We are a tier 1 and R1 research institution. Every student does research, whether you're in the fine arts or in engineering. We also have really strong opportunities for internships because we're located in the city. There's really no excuse not to have an internship during the academic year if that's something you're looking for. And then I also love to highlight study abroad. We have one of the oldest and largest study abroad programs in the country. We've been sending students abroad for over 100 years. We have over 80 programs that we offer, including programs for students who are studying STEM. So if you are a pre-med student, if you're an engineering student, you can take your pre-med major, your engineering major abroad with you, still graduate in 4 years. In terms of campus culture, we guarantee housing for all 4 years, which is very rare for such an urban school. 85% of students do live on campus with us, so we're definitely residential. We have over 450 clubs and organizations that students can join, and Division I athletics as well. Hockey and basketball are our 2 biggest D1 sports, but we have over 20 in total. We're number 2 in the nation for hockey right now, which is very exciting, headed to the Frozen Four next week. So those are just some ways you can be involved as a student. Happy to answer any questions that come along about BU, about our application process, and happy to be here tonight.
Great, thank you so much. And Tyra.
Tira.
Sorry.
You can imagine I'm used to it. Now for something very different. Yes, I'm Tira Briggs, and I'm the Vice President for Admission and Financial Aid at Harvey Mudd College. We are a small liberal arts college, but we call ourselves the Liberal Arts College of Math, Science, and Engineering because we only offer majors in the STEM fields, and we only offer 12 majors. They are some combination of biology, chemistry, computer science, engineering, math, and physics, and then many joint majors within that as well. We are located about 35 miles to the east of Los Angeles, but we are in a small town of Claremont. I actually grew up in Concord, Massachusetts, and Claremont reminds me a lot of Concord, a sort of small New England town feel. But to have access to Los Angeles, the second largest city in the United States, a short train ride away, is absolutely an amazing opportunity for our students. And yes, the weather is not bad as well, so I will put a plug in there, especially today. That said, we are also part of something called the Claremont Colleges, and we are the only planned college consortium in the United States. So that means that along with Pomona College, Scripps College, Claremont McKenna College, and Pitzer College, as well as 2 graduate institutions, we are 7 institutions all located in 1 square mile. So as a student at Harvey Mudd or any of the other Claremont colleges, you'll be able to take classes, join clubs, eat meals at any of the other Claremont colleges. We are a small school, about 900 undergraduates, but altogether we are 6,000 undergrads. So we feel like we give you the best of both worlds, everything from a small liberal arts college and all of those advantages, but with the resources of a small to mid-sized university. Like many of my colleagues, we highlight a lot about sort of a balanced curriculum, even though we only offer majors in math, science, and engineering. Our mission statement very much highlights that we're looking for students who are equally excited to study in the humanities, social sciences, and the arts. We know that they need that balance in order to be successful and well-educated citizens. Lots and lots of opportunities for research. Being only undergraduate means all of our faculty members are there only for you, and you're never competing with graduate students for research opportunities or anything like that. Also highly collaborative. This isn't a what'd you get kind of atmosphere. Students are really supportive of one another. And we typically are #1 on payscale.com's list of schools with the #1 return on investment of any college or university in the country. So our students do extremely well once they graduate. And I promise you that if your child moves away 3,000 miles to go to college, they will come home as well. So rest assured. I won't mention that I've lived in Southern California for 17 years, even though I grew up in Boston. But yes, I'm happy to answer any questions, and thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to start off with the first question just to kind of get us started. But for any of our families out there, if you would like to drop a question in the chat or would like to come off mute, raise a hand, just let us know. And we, the whole point of this is that you have the opportunity to get some of your questions answered. Some of the questions every year, are pretty universal, so if only one person needs to answer, we don't need to give the same answer 4 times, but there's always questions that are unique to each individual institution, especially, if it's specific to the way the state system does it versus a private university versus out of state. So if it warrants everybody answering, let's hear from everybody. If not, then sometimes we can just do it with just one person jumping in. Okay. All right. So just to start off, what would you say makes an applicant stand out to you or your institution in the admissions process?
I can jump in there. So at state universities, at UMass Lowell, I'll kind of talk about sort of the hierarchy of application components. And really, when you think about public universities, they're really kind of built around access, right? So they're built around people being able to, no matter what school they go to, have an equal shot of getting into the university. And so it's really a relatively objective process than subjective, I'd say. When we look at application review, by far the most important part of a student's application to whether it's UMass Lowell, UMass Amherst, or any other UMass school, it is the high school transcript by far. That is the driver of the admissions process. That will determine, for the most part, merit scholarship opportunity. That will determine honors college offers, all that good stuff. That is where the rubber really meets the road for applicants with the public universities in Massachusetts. Things like the letter of recommendation, essay, extracurricular activities, a resume if you choose to send that, all of those sort of supporting documents, test scores, which we consider supporting, we are test optional, are all components that are really come into play for students who might be on the margin of admissibility. So, the most important and interesting thing to us as a university is the transcript.
I could answer that as well because it is fairly different for us. Certainly the transcript is the most important part. I will certainly agree with that as well. But what we are really looking for is all about fit with the institution. We believe that 80% of the students who apply to Harvey Mudd would be more than capable of doing our work. So we have to move very quickly past the transcript, and we are test optional as well. Look past that and look very carefully at things like the recommendations matter quite a bit. I advise students as you're considering schools to look at the mission statement of an institution you're considering to get an idea of what they might value. And for us, we're really looking for students who can convince us that they're excited about humanities, social sciences, and arts, that they want to work in a collaborative atmosphere, that we hear from your teachers that you're the student who notices when a student is struggling and supports them, because that's the kind of environment that we want to promote as well. So we move pretty quickly past the transcript and look much more closely at some of the other pieces that are coming in terms of recommendations, how a student writes about the college, how a student writes about themselves.
Yeah, I would jump in and share, similar to Harvey Mudd, we are really looking at, obviously the transcript is the most important predictor of academic success, but there's more to our review process. We have what we call an individualized review process, which is similar term I think I hear as holistic review process, where we're looking at all facets of the application. We have a very collaborative community. We know that works really well with our project-based curriculum. And so if I'm just looking at a student's transcript, I really can't get a sense of what you would be like as a community member on campus, working with a team on a project, being part of an activity or a club. So we're looking at those letters of recommendation. We're looking at all the things that you're excited about, that you're involved in your activities, and the things that you're passionate about, to just determine that that academic as well as that social fit in terms of our campus community.
I'll really echo what everyone has said here. For BU, transcript academics are going to predict your academic success for us, and that is the most important piece of the application process. But as we get beyond that, those personal qualities and characteristics do come into play. One tiny tidbit that I do offer for students is if you're applying to colleges that are in college towns where there are a lot of different schools all in a small area, if that school asks, why are you applying to our school? Make sure it is school specific, not area specific. Because if you can take your BU essay out and put it into your Northeastern application, we know that, and that is not what we are looking to see. So students who can get really specific into the details of BU and why they're applying, if they choose to write that why BU essay, that does tend to help your application stand out to us.
Great, thank you. And for any of our juniors that are on right now or parents of juniors, we just played the GPA game in our junior seminar the other day. So we did a lot of looks at all the different components to the application, things that could play into the admissions decisions, how, it is more than just a transcript. So great, thanks. We did have one question or two questions in the chat. One was just more information about applying specifically for a pre-med program, and what a student might need to do in order to work towards that in high school in order to qualify for that type of program.
I can start with that one. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at most schools nowadays, when students apply to pre-med, they are applying to an advisory program or a pathway, not to a major. Most schools will have you choose a major like biology, chemistry, health science, or anything else. At BU, you could choose communications as your major and still be on track to apply into medical school and be part of our pre-med pathway. So that is a misconception we get a lot when folks are asking us about applying to pre-med. It's not actually a major, it's a pathway. You'll have to choose a specific major. I don't think there are many tips that I would give at the high school level, except for making sure that your math and science curriculum is strong at the high school level, which it will be attending your high school anyway. We like to see if students have experience in the pre-med field, if that's what they're interested in. But if you don't know that just yet, that's perfectly fine. Because again, you could be applying to a communications major and be interested in pre-med. Those are some of my tips.
All right, and then just a clarification, is WPI and BU test optional, or are SATs or ACTs required?
At WPI, we're actually test-free right now, which means we are not looking at test scores at all in the application review process. We're piloting that program for 8 years, and I think we're either in year 3 or 4 of that. We had been test optional pre-COVID, and so we have a lot of data that shows us that the transcript is the best predictor of academic success here at WPI. So we felt this was an opportunity as we moved farther away from using test scores at the application review process to pilot being test optional. So again, like I said, it's an 8-year pilot, and I believe we're in year 3. It's going to be year 4 next year of that, of being test free, or test blind is another term that you might hear.
At BU, we are test optional for juniors. So if there are younger students attending this evening, we haven't decided how we'll be moving forward past current juniors at this point. All of us are hoping that we will remain test optional, but you will have that information with plenty of time before you are applying to BU. So if you know if you need to prepare for those exams or not. But we are test optional. We'll take the SAT or the ACT if you feel like your test scores are an accurate and a strong representation of you as a student. We would encourage you to submit them. If you feel like they don't represent you well, leave them off your application. If your test scores are strong, they could help you, but if they are weak, they could hurt you. So if you're unsure, probably leave them off.
In the interest of full disclosure, we're actually in the same situation as BU. We'll be making an announcement probably by the end of next fall once the decision is made about whether we continue to be test optional.
Ms. Corallo, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. So my question is around students and what they're involved in outside of school. Do you like to see a variety of activities on a resume to show students have been in a lot of activities and many activities, but perhaps maybe not in depth in those? Or would you rather see a student be involved in a few activities in which they have been deeply involved?
I'm happy to start with that one. Either is fine, to be honest. I mean, we have room for the what we call the well-rounded student. I think that's probably what most of our students are, that they have done a good number of things, maybe not hugely deeply into tons of them. But we also have room for the students I call the pointy students, the ones who have really immersed themselves in one area and really excelled in that, because it's exactly that combination of students that makes our classes so interesting. Because you have someone who's, I don't want to use the word obsessed, but really focused in on one area versus the students who kind of want to leave their options open. I think the bottom line is that in general, there is no right answer or right activity or wrong activity for students to be involved in. What we care far more about is how do you spend your time when you have a choice? It's fine if you are really excited about something in your senior year and you want to jump into that. We're not going to think that you're like a serial joiner, just grabbing, onto one activity. But we also, we find room for students of all different sorts. Most places, even STEM institutions, aren't looking for students who have had tons of research opportunities or fancy things like that. We know not everyone has resources or opportunities to do that. We just want to see how you spend your time and think creatively about that.
If I may, a lot of students think, well, what I would just say is please don't ever make a choice to do or not to do a club or organization or job or anything like that for our benefit as college representatives. You do what you want to do it with passion, do what you enjoy, and that will come through. And that's what we're looking for, as people who get involved in the things they love and the things they care about. Things that like employment. That's a great one I love to see. I love there are students who take care of their siblings after school. That's one to highlight. Those shouldn't be discounted as great extracurricular sort of responsibilities or activities as well. But please do what you want to do, not for my benefit or our benefit.
I'll maybe take that question to the next level for us, at least. I agree with everything that's been said. Either is a great way to apply into BU or to have on your resume. As we start to look at our scholarship recipients, we do tend to look a little bit deeper into those extracurricular activities and the impact that the students had on their community or their high school. So if you have had some big projects or activities that have really impacted you in your life, I'd encourage you to really highlight those things in your application. So if it's just giving us a little bit more information in the additional information section, or writing one of your scholarship essays about that topic, sometimes it looks like a student has done a really cool thing, but all I have is the 10-word sentence in the Common App explanation that tells me about it, and I don't really get quite enough at that point. So if you do have things that have stood out as part of your resume, tell us a little bit more about them, especially if you are applying for scholarships.
I can jump in with a question here and kind of go back to the transcript as you guys were all talking about earlier. When you get this transcript, how do you interpret a student's transcript? Is there anything specifically you guys are looking for when you have a student transcript in front of you?
I can start. Probably going to be some similar answers, but one of the things I wanted to stress that I think we've started sort of touching on is that, you know, every school is a little bit different, and sometimes it depends on the school that the answer that we would give, although I feel like there's a lot of similarity in terms of some of the answers we're giving tonight. But in terms of the transcript at WPI and sort of what we look for, we do hone in a little bit more on the math and science, just given the nature of our programs. So I will just share, because it is an important piece to WPI, but I think it's probably going to be true with a couple other schools. We do hone in a little bit more, like I said, on the math and science, and students need to have math through pre-calculus in order to transition to WPI, and then to lab sciences. But again, it goes back to that individualized process. And when we're reviewing a student's application, we're not only looking at the school transcript that's been sent to us by your high school, we're also looking at your school profile. So that's going to give us a sense of the types of classes that are offered in your school, types of activities, of course, in your community or your school community, but also GPA, rigor, strength of program. How does AMSA denote like classes that might be a little bit more rigorous than others? So we're looking at two things at WPI. It's how the student did in the class. So depending on a school's grading scale, we'll look at that. Common would be, you know, ABC. But then we're also looking at the strength of a student's schedule. So in terms of the rigor and the types of courses that they took based on what's offered to them within the context of their particular school.
One sort of like nuts and bolts kind of answer to this is some schools will recalculate a transcript, some won't. All of the public universities in Massachusetts are required to recalculate high school transcripts. So that's an important thing to understand, that when we're reviewing your transcript and, you know, looking for that sort of balance between success and rigor that you're able to kind of find, we do have to put it through our system. And you know, we give a half a letter grade bump to any honors course, full letter grade bump to any AP, IB, or dual enrollment courses. And then that new GPA that we derive is what we use for all of our admissions decisions, honors, all of that good stuff. So some schools do, some schools don't, but all public universities in Massachusetts have to do that.
The only thing I'd add is that we are even more prescriptive than WPI is, and that we actually require that all students before they get to us have had a year of calculus, a year of chemistry, and a year of physics. Although we don't dictate at what level those courses have to be, since students are coming to us from around the world, but we do require those.
I'll add kind of the opposite of that at FBU, because we offer so many different programs and have the flexibility for your students to move between them. When we admit you to the university, while you apply to a major in a school or college, because you have the potential to change that at any point, we want your high school transcript to be fairly well-rounded. Kind of the opposite of Tira, I loved pointy. That is the best term. I'm going to use that from now on, but a well-rounded student in terms of their high school curriculum.
Thank you for your answers. Another question that we wanted to ask was, do students have a better chance of getting accepted if they apply early decision or early action to your schools? I know that might vary for all the schools that are here, but if you could speak briefly to that, that would be helpful.
I could start with this one. BU offers early decision. We do not offer early action, with the difference being early decision is that binding program. So you apply to one school, early decision, you say, this is my first choice. If I'm admitted, I'll be enrolling, no questions asked. Whereas early action does not have that binding component. It's simply an earlier application. You get your decision back a little bit earlier. For us, the answer is kind of in our statistics, our enrollment numbers, and yes, the students who are committing to us do have a higher chance of being admitted than a student who applies in regular decision. We enroll over 50% of our class every year through our early decision pool. This past year, we had about 6,000 students who applied early decision, and that's compared to an applicant pool of about, my math here, 73,000 students who applied regular decision. And again, 50% of our class came from those 6,000 applications. So the statistics kind of speak for themselves.
There can be some programs. I mean, generally early action, like she said, is just like an expression or an early expression of interest. So you kind of get that part of the process over with sooner, and you can kind of move on to the fun part of really kind of deciding as to where you're going to go. But as with most of these answers, it can be very institutionally specific, especially with particular academic programs. Some can get a little more action the earlier you apply than others. We only have one program that requires an early action application. That's our nursing program. That is typically a degree program that fills right up. So usually you want to apply to the earliest deadline that a school offers for that program. But it is certainly something you want to just reach out and kind of confirm with each school that you're considering to make sure you're not missing deadlines. I mean, for the most part, and I think this is probably the case for all of us, like we can correct anything in an application, like a typo, wrong social security, like anything can be corrected. What we cannot do is turn back time. Deadlines are, that is the thing that is really the part you really want to most pay attention to. So, and have kind of a good handle on. So please reach out to those schools and kind of understand the timelines and those little details that might be different from school to school. But yeah, it can be program specific too.
And it's a fair question to ask the school, what is your overall admit rate versus what is your admit rate for early decision? The worst they can tell you is we don't share that information, but many will. We have a slightly higher admit rate for early decision than we do. We have ED1 and ED2 for early decision than we do overall, but it's not usually a dramatic difference.
And I would agree with all of the comments. The slightly different, and this is where that spreadsheet is going to come in really handy as you start to continue your journey, whether you're a junior or a sophomore, because every school does things a little bit differently. So I find it really helpful to have that spreadsheet, but we offer both early decision and early action. We do offer both. We brought early decision back a couple years ago. We had been early action exclusively and regular decision for a while, but we do know that for some students who are applying to WPI, they like that option of having early decision, which does have a slightly higher acceptance rate, but not above the other rounds that we offer. And it is really, I think it's similar to BU in the sense that these are students who are raising their hand saying, this is where we want to be. And so, we want to do everything we can to bring those students to campus. But again, academic fit is the most important thing. So we have to make sure that that's there before we make any decision either way.
Thank you all for your answers to that question. We do have a few questions in the chat. And I would encourage anyone that's, online listening, if you do have questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. We have one here about extracurricular activities. Are they looked at for the junior and senior year, or are all 4 years of high school more impactful?
All 4 years.
Thank you. And another one, how do you handle transfer credits for AP or accelerated level courses at your school?
Generally, it's a 3 or better at UMass Lowell, 3 or better on the AP exams to receive college credit. We publish the policy right on our website, which I assume we all do. So that's something you can just find right in there. But we do need the test scores officially from College Board to be able to give you the college credit for those. Similarly, sort of tangentially, dual enrollment credits, if you happen to have any college classes, we do certainly give college credit for any college classes. The kind of key being that we need to have an equivalent course. So if it's maybe a remedial math or writing or culinary or something like that, we don't offer that. So that is not something we'd be able to give you college credit for. And again, similarly, we need the official college transcript by the college that accredits that course to be able to give you the college credit.
For BU, we'll take a 4 or a 5 for credit on the AP exam. We actually don't look at AP scores as part of our application review process. So if you do take some exams in your junior year, there's no need to send them in or to report them. We just don't consider them. We're looking at the grade you received in the class at that time. And then if you decide to enroll with us at BU, we will give credit for a 4 or 5. For any dual enrollment classes that you might have taken, we have a slightly different policy. If your dual enrollment course applies towards your graduation from AMSA, we cannot take it for credit. We can't double dip. If you took a course outside of your requirements to graduate, maybe you're taking like a really high level math class or something for fun over the summer, then as long as we offer a similar course, we can generally take it for credit and count it towards your graduation.
We are the same in terms of the dual enrollment, that we don't double dip in terms of credit, but we also like to say that we are equal opportunity stingy and that we don't transfer in any AP credits, any IB credits in any way, shape, or form.
And we're similar to BU 4 or 5 on the AP exam. In terms of dual enrollment, student has to complete that class it has to be completed at the college where they're taking the course. And then typically if you get a B or better in that class, if it's a course equivalent of something we offer at WPI, you can bring that credit.
Thank you. As you can see, you know, all 4 colleges, their policies are slightly different. So it's important for your students to kind of do their homework when looking at schools. We have another kind of specific question about if your computer science or engineering programs offer AI concentrations and courses for undergrads, and is AI an area that your school will be growing?
I can say for WPI, the answer is yes and yes, of course. So we do have computer science is our most popular major on campus right now. We do have a concentration in AI, and I feel comfortable saying our computer science department is always keeping up with what's happening out in the world and adding concentrations and growing programs and listening to students and their interests and really moving forward as technology moves so quickly.
We don't have academic concentrations within STEM. We only do that for humanities, social sciences, and arts. So there would be classes you could take. But I would also wager that it's going to be hard for any of us to keep up with the demand for AI, since that's what just about everybody writes about. So.
Thank you. Does someone have another question from the counseling team?
Like we've got one more in the chat. It's a great question. Do your colleges include demonstrated interest in your decision process? And maybe you could let us know what demonstrated interest is too.
I'm happy to talk about that. We don't consider demonstrated interest, but what that essentially means is a college tracking, either officially or unofficially, for lack of a better term, the ways in which you engage with them? Meaning some schools take very careful notice of, if they visited your high school, did you come? Did you come to an open house, whether virtual or in person? Some schools are even tracking how often or if you have opened their emails. And demonstrated interest means that they will pay attention to all of these things and factor it in to your admission decision. It's not usually a huge part of it, but it means that if you show more interest, you have a better chance of being admitted, because they're thinking that you have a better chance of enrolling. So it's something that they do, for lack of a better term, again, to sort of protect their yield, meaning of the students they admit, how many students choose to enroll. Some schools do it more informally. Hey, yes, I see that the student visited. That's great. Other schools, many of us use the same database, and there are some ways in which that database can literally assign a score that says this person's demonstrated interest score is this versus that, and that can have an impact. I will note again, Harvey Mudd does not do that.
I'd say that BU falls on the more casual side of that spectrum. Technically, yes, you sign in with us when you come to visit campus, you fill out an inquiry card when we come to your high school, but do we use that in the review of applications? Not really. I've been at BU, I'm in year 11. When I first started, yes, we definitely used it. Now, not so much.
I would say at WPI, it's on the casual side. So we do track student engagement, whether it's visiting, virtual, in person. That's just based on the database that we use. We can see when a student's engaged with us. Fit is important to us, that fit at WPI, but showing that you've engaged with us and you've learned more about our school and our programs and our community can come in a variety of ways. The most obvious, obviously, being that visit, but we have a supplemental essay where we ask students to tell us a little bit about why they think they'd be a good fit for our program. And so that's another way that we can see that students engage with us, whether it's just taking the time to learn a little bit more about us through our website. And again, really helping us assess that fit with our campus community. But it's not, we're not tracking number and quantity or anything like that.
We don't track it.
Thank you. I always find that world very fascinating. We do always encourage students when they are reaching out to make sure that their emails are professional, because that sort of interaction with the representative who may be reviewing your application is certainly important. That's separate from demonstrated interest. That's more about making a good impression. So again, feel free to pop your questions in the chat. My question is, what are your thoughts on outside or supplemental letters of recommendation? So for those who aren't familiar or as familiar with the pieces of an application yet, most colleges or universities require 1 to 2 academic letters of recommendation. So letters from typically junior or senior year teachers. And there are opportunities for additional letters or supplemental letters from coaches or employers. So do you want to see them? Or how many letters is too many? What do you all like?
So, we just require 1 letter of recommendation. That's the requirement. We actually have no preference as to who it is from. So it can be a coach, a mentor, a boss, teacher, counselor, whatever, or whoever the student believes can say some interesting things and lend some insight into who they are as a student and what they bring to the campus community. Those things are always welcome. When it comes to how many, I would say, for me, just personally, having read a lot of applications over the years, they start to kind of say the same things at like the 3-ish. So I would say, 2 to 3 at most would be probably my target. But if the requirement of the school is 1, that's the requirement. And feel free to send the requirement.
I'll echo what Doug has said. At BU, we only require 1. Most students do send 2 because that's what the Common App generally affords students. And then if students want to send a 3rd, that's fine. Any more than that, unnecessary. And honestly, I don't have time to open the extra letters of recommendation. 80,000 applications. I can only stick to what we are requiring from students.
Sorry, I was waiting for all my kids to stop yelling. That's it. Okay. So my question would be, in terms of like when students are applying, do they need to apply to specific programs or majors? Are there majors at your institutions that are more competitive? And are there programs that students are not able to transfer into, or can they like go into one program and then transfer into another once they're a student there?
That is a really good question. And that's where, again, I'm going to go back to that spreadsheet because colleges do vary in how they handle applying to a specific major or a specific school. And so you really do want to make sure you do your homework on that and you ask those questions, whether you're visiting or connecting with a counselor during a high school visit. Because I do think a lot of schools handle it differently. At WPI, when students apply to WPI, they're just applying to WPI. So we're not admitting to a major, we don't have quotas on majors. And so when students arrive on campus, they can choose a major midway through their first year, and they can easily transfer between majors at WPI. So we're very flexible in that way, but it is really a very important question to make sure that you are clear on with the schools that you're applying to.
I'll just bring up computer science again. If we admitted all of the students who said they wanted computer science, we could have an entire college of computer science. So that, I mean, but we are a liberal arts college. So the same thing, anybody who gets to Harvey Mudd and wants to major in computer science is welcome to do so. But I would say in some cases with computer science students, they need to be that much more intentional about building on what I think it was what Elise was saying about telling us why our computer science is a good fit. Don't just say I like computer science, I want to study computer science, and then I want to study artificial intelligence, and then I want to study machine learning. You're going to need to get sort of at the why behind it, and do you want to study more broadly and look at our whole core curriculum and that sort of thing.
At UMass Lowell, a student is never tied into anything, long term. They can change their major. We do require a first choice and a second choice on your application, so we evaluate you for that first choice major, do everything we can to get you into that program. If we can't, we'll move on to the second choice major. Sometimes we even ask for a third choice if their first and second is in STEM. So, that is how our application works. But, I do all of the major changes for students who are admitted prior to the first day of classes. And, I think we're probably smaller than, maybe not smaller than Harvard Mudd, but we enroll only about a class of about 2,100. I change 400 majors prior to the first day of classes for incoming students. So it is very, very typical for students to change their major even prior to school starting. And that's totally fine. I mean, you're 16, 17, 18, making a big time decision that, things change very quickly for people at that age. The only program we have that is incoming first year students only, we don't do internal transfers or external transfers, is nursing. That's the only program that would fit that bill. But everything else can tend to become a little bit more competitive the longer you wait to apply. So around the regular decision timeline, things like our computer science program, our engineering programs, our sound recording technology program is one that is relatively niche, but becomes ultra competitive if you wait to apply for that. So there are some specific programs that get a little more difficult, but nursing is the only one that's like, if you even have like a 20% interest in nursing, put that as your first choice, and you can always bail at a later date. You can, but getting into it at a later date is just not possible.
For us at BU, students do have to choose a school or college. So again, we have 10 of them, and then a major within that school or college. But the most popular incoming option is undeclared. So if that's the major that you're selecting when you come in, that's perfectly fine. A third of students come in undeclared. Sounds great. We don't have many first year entry programs exclusively. The one that I'll say is our physical therapy program. They really don't take students at a later date to move into it because it is a combined program, bachelor's and doctorate. And then for students who are interested in engineering, I always say start there, and only because it's super tracked. So we will approve you to move into it after your first year, but you may be behind in your coursework. So if you want to stay on track to graduate in 4 years, which you should be, we recommend starting into it instead of moving into it later.
All right.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say there's another question in the chat. So can you talk about any honors school programs that you might have at your school and what that might mean to an incoming student admitted to an honors program.
I could start with this one. So BU's Honors College is fairly unique and specific to us. It is not just advanced level classes of that in your major or in the liberal arts. We do think that academically, any student who's admitted to BU would be successful in the Honors College. So that's not the point of the Honors College. Our Honors College is built for students who are really looking to explore new areas academically. They're interested in interdisciplinary learning. They want to do hands-on research. They want to be part of a community of students who are interested in all of those things. So it is a different program than just advanced level classes. It does require one additional essay to apply into that program. And students can be they're reviewed first for admission to the university and then reviewed for the Honors College. So there's no harm in applying to our Honors College, and you don't need to worry that it would risk your admission to the university as a whole.
Honors is at UMass Lowell is a little more traditional, I'd say, pretty typical to what you'd expect from an honors college at the university level. Incoming students are automatically applicants are automatically evaluated for honors eligibility. Just requires a higher level of grade point average over and above the what we're looking for admission. It tends to be some of our most enthusiastic students on campus. It's really people who want to who are a little more academically curious, want to squeeze a little bit more out of the education. I usually liken it to, say, like AP level coursework, jump in difficulty over a standard college prep course. But at the honors level, you're just taking one course per semester at the honors level. So it's 8 total courses over the course of your time here. You have to just kind of check a bunch of other boxes along the way. Of course, you have to go to honors designated events, and you do a big project. There's a mentorship program, great study abroad opportunities specific to honors. Fellowship opportunities, which is like paid research. And there are some tangible benefits that come along with it. We have a honors residence hall. So if students want to live surrounded by students who are as equally academically motivated as they are, it's a building that opened up just a handful of years ago. It's really new. So that's really exciting. Suite style building. Generally first year students don't get to live in suites at UMass Lowell. So that's an option. Early course registration is like a huge perk. So students get to build their schedule before anybody else at the university. So maybe you don't want to have to get up before like 9 a.m. or want to keep Tuesdays and Thursdays open so you can work, which is a very typical of our student body. So this gives you the ultimate flexibility to build your schedule before anybody else. Of course, you graduate with honors distinction. It's a great alumni network. Carry that with you through grad school applications, through into your career. But that's what the program is all about. Very similar across the board at all of the UMasses.
We don't have one.
Same here. We don't have an honors program.
Thank you guys so much. The next question that we have is thinking about a student who struggled academically during their freshman and part of their sophomore year, but then really got it together. How does your college evaluate a student who has shown growth and improvement over time?
This is a good question. And I think something that we've always talked about, but I think given the last couple of years with the pandemic and this shift that our students had to go through of being in the classroom and then being remote and then going back, we certainly, I think, have always talked about showing grace with students, knowing that life happens, that things happen, that we're not expecting everyone to be perfect, but the pandemic really sort of amplified those conversations. So I would say that we understand that we don't expect every student. We're not perfect individuals ourselves, so we don't expect our students to always be perfect. And we know that things can happen, whether it's a class or a life circumstance. And so, you know, we really are looking at all 4 years of a student's transcript and high school experience. And, you know, obviously an upward trend is something that we like to see. So we certainly understand that a student can get off to a slower start for whatever reason. And when we see that improvement, it really helps us see that a student can persevere, they can overcome adversity. So just because a student might get off to a slow start for whatever reason in their first year, doesn't mean that we're not going to consider them at WPI. And again, that academic fit needs to be there. So that's really important. But one thing I would also share is in that Common Application, there is a section on the Common App where you have a space to include additional information. And so if there's something you want to share about maybe why you struggled in a class or you had a life circumstance that really impacted your high school experience in the first year, please feel comfortable sharing that with us, and you can use that section in the Common Application to do that, and you can talk to your school counselor about that, and I'm certain that they'll feel comfortable sharing some information about that in their letter of recommendation as well. So I hope that answer is helpful in some way.
Thank you. One other question that we wanted to touch upon, and I know this is something we're going to be working on in our junior seminar work with our juniors in the next month or so. If you could just tell us a little bit, in your opinion, about what makes for a strong college essay, that might be helpful for our juniors and their families.
I can start with that one. I think all of us could probably do an entire seminar on what makes a good college essay. I think that there are two sides. I have two opinions on this. I think that the college essay is just one piece of the application, and students stress about it a lot. I think when it comes down to it, write a strong piece of writing that is free of grammatical and spelling errors, and that is about you, and then walk away. That's what we are looking for at its core. When you get into the details, I do really recommend that students take some time to think about themselves in the essay, and whether anyone else in their class, in their generation, could write a similar essay. A few years ago, we got a lot of essays about learning to drive. It's something that almost every 16-year-old does, unless you have like a unique story to it. They're all kind of the same. I had no freedom. I now have my license. I have all the freedom in the world. So thinking about, could this essay be written by anyone else in my class? And at BU, we don't offer interviews, so your essay might be the only place in the entire application where you're speaking to me directly about yourself. So that's what I want to learn about. Is it you that comes through in this essay space? But again, considering all those things, it's just one piece of the application. I don't think it needs to be something that has to be written over a 2-year period with like 10 different revisions. Write a strong piece, submit it. It's about you. It's going to be great.
Everything Elise said, and then the way I ask students to think about it is 80% of the essays we get are absolutely fine. They do exactly what they're meant to do. 10% are of concern for the reasons Elise was saying, or students aren't, you know, they're not writing anything in some cases, or you know, lots of mistakes, something like that. And 10% are so good that they make me want to fight harder for them in admission committee. Don't shoot for the 10%. I think those happen by mistake because those students are just really talented writers. Shoot for that 80%, and that should take pressure off, and you're going to be absolutely fine.
One other little piece of advice that Tira, you made me think of is fill out the entire space that you're given. If you have 650 words on the Common App, use at least 600 of those words. If I pull up your essay and it's only half the amount of the page, it's automatically going to fall into that bottom 10%, no matter how good the writing is. Use up all the space that you've given, that you're given to write that essay.
Thank you all. That's very, very helpful. I know we have a lot of a lot of questions around that essay from students all the time. So I appreciate I know we all appreciate that info. Last question of the night, unless there are any other additional questions that parents or students that are on here want to throw in the chat quickly. But so this will be the last question of the night, and I think it's a good one to close on. What advice would you all give to students as they, go through this application process? We've been going through a seminar with them, tell them a lot. It's definitely a very reflective process, and I know it's very nerve-wracking for them. So what advice would you give to, students that are going through that application process?
Hey, I'll jump off. Okay. I'll try not to steal too many of them, so everybody has something. Okay, so I'm just going to say, hopefully you as a family can have fun with this process. I mean, it is a exciting next step for everybody involved. Maybe a little sad for mom and dad. Really exciting for the student. It comes with a lot of anxiety, totally understandably, financial, big transition in your life. But at the end of the day, this is a really exciting opportunity for you and your family. And I would hope that you try to find the enjoyment in it, try to find the moments that you guys get to connect as a family over this conversation, and really kind of savor those moments and try to have fun with this. We in the profession will try our absolute best to make it to lower the stress level as possible, as much as we possibly can, through whatever communication you like to have with us. So try to have fun with it, enjoy it. Hopefully it's the only time you're doing this as a student, looking for colleges again down the road. But so, try to have fun with the process.
Yeah, I would just say, hopefully it's comforting to know that right now, as you are not doing anything else differently, there are literally hundreds of colleges across this country who want you, period. If you only focus on a list of about 20 colleges that are ranked in some way or whatever, that's what leads to disappointment. If you think broadly about the schools where you could be happy, then you're inevitably you're going to be happy with the outcomes. And the next 1, 2, or 3 years for this is not, and this is building on something Doug said, it is not about you twisting yourself into a pretzel to become something we want. You make good choices for yourself, do the things you love, then we're going to figure out whether or not you're a great fit for us, and the chips are going to fall exactly where they should be.
I'll add on that I think I would hope that families and students are aware of all the supports that are out there for them during this process. So of course you have the counseling staff at AMSA, but if you have questions about the specific schools or what we're looking for or something that's maybe missing as part of your application, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to our general offices. You can reach out to us directly. Each one of us, generally speaking, in the industry has a territory that we represent in some way. So you can find an individual person's email address that maybe will get back to you faster than the general VUE admissions inbox is a scary place. So if you have questions, email me. I'm happy to get back to you any time of the year, pretty much.
Oh, I think, did Kate just log off accidentally? I think she was gonna unmute and now she's gone. I've loved what the three of you have said. So I was like, oh goodness, I can't wait to hear what's next.
It was going to be amazing, I'm sure.
I
It's going to
know,
blow us all away.
I'll
out.
keep an eye and see if she hops back on. Doug, as you were talking, it made me think, 20 some odd more years ago than I want to count. I was taking a road trip out to the Amherst area from where I grew up in southern Maine. And my dad and I were driving in a 1985 Volvo that broke down in the hills of Route 2. And so, yeah, there's a lot of memories to be made and a lot of fun to be had. I saw the Amherst College campus from a tow truck. The tow truck driver took us on like a little drive around campus because that was where we were headed, and we'd missed, because it was pre-cell phones. So we had we'd missed our tour, and so I got to see it from a tow truck, and it actually was kind of fun at the time. All right, well, I haven't seen Kate pop back in. So I will take this opportunity to close us out. Thank you all so much for being here. Thanks, Doug and Elise and Kira and Kate. You've been such wonderful panelists, and thank you for sharing your experience and your wisdom and your kindness with us. And there's one other person that I wanted to introduce. I should have introduced her up front. Andy Florendo is with us tonight, and she is the new administrative assistant in our department. And so you likely have been hearing from her all year, and she's been doing some wonderful work helping us communicate more frequently and answering a ton of questions. She's also working on coordinating our scholarship program. So thanks to Annie for being here as well. And she's also a really friendly face for the kids as they enter the office downstairs. So wanted to take a moment and thank her for being here as well. And that's all for tonight. Feel free to email us anytime, and we'll get a recording out that if there's anything you wanted to review or share with your friends. So thank you so much for being here. Awesome. All right. Take care. I'll hang around for a minute if anybody needs anything.
Thank you folks very much. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Doug.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.